Today, I welcome you to my Wise One channel. I am your host, Lady Karen, and I am glad that you joined me. If you actually join me, you don't have to.
You've got one person watching.
That's not you?
That's not me.
Woo! Hi, good morning. I hope you're doing well. And we're going to start off by breathing. I'm not certified or anything. It's just what I do. You can join with me if it's okay. Breathing in and breathing out. And then in and then out. Just let it all go. And breathing in. And then we're going to breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. Feel better? I feel kind of like more relaxed, easier going, more grounded. So Sundays are my videos where I talk about faith. And I have a lot of faith, a lot of deep faith. It's just how I was born. It's just part of who I am. It's just what I do. It's what it is. Autistically, inclusively. Um, it's a natural talent that I hope to hone into a skill. Became an ordained minister through the ULC. And Sundays I like to take a chance to talk about my personal belief that I'm building for people to inclusively bring their faith to a new type of religion that should be inclusive. This religion that I'm working on is supposed to be a safe place and inclusive. Is the important part is that anybody should be able to join um, without discrimination, whatever combinations are needed. Whether or not you're neurospicy, neurodivergent, any walks of life, any backgrounds, any cultures. I mean, it's inclusive and transparent, and your safety, your spiritual safety, is top priority. Um, Not so much the safety of your soul, but when we talk religion, we talk organization, and organization can become very powerful, and that power can harm individuals intentionally or unintentionally, and that harm, that trauma, kind of spills into our everyday lives. And what I want to do is either avoid or heal or try to make sure that that kind of trauma in your life or in your death or any aspect of your being is safe and cared for to the best that you can do. Uh, yeah, but so faith is the divinity within ourselves, the divinity within each other, to each other, and the divinity, the great divine, the great divine, the great powerful, all powerful, or aspects of all powerful, sentient to non-sentient being. Uh, I did not rehearse or gather or put today's video together at all. I did come across people talking about faith versus knowledge, and that's something I want to address today in today's video. And it's interesting how there's this precedence of if you have knowledge, you don't have faith. But being is that we are human, and all of human knowledge that had started going on the internet and now is being removed from the internet. But if you take all of human knowledge and you put it all together, you're not going to get an all-knowing being, because there's so much that we don't know that we don't know. And there lies our faith to keep going, even though into the unknown, into things that we have no predictability, no stability, no knowledge, nothing that we can tangibly grab or understand or prepare for what's next. We can't predict anything. We can't, and that gets scary. And that's that fear, the way that we can react to that fear. A lot of times, some ways that not proceed, the ways that afterwards, not before. There's a word. What happens? The stages after not knowing, usually fear is present. It's very obvious. And then from fear, we combat that either with anger or with humor. And then the next stage usually is hate and rage and wrath, and those can grow from ignorance. But when the unknown is addressed, unknown is kind of like what happens to us, something that we don't know, kind of like happens to us. It's not something we control, which is an illusion. It's not something that we can practice as much, or we can affect as much as it affects us. And then when it affects us, if we can address it, or if we can intentionally put in faith to address what we don't know, there's a different results besides anger. There's a different results. We can address it with a more positive humor, or we can address it with the next stage would be with faith, would be more surety in our steps into the unknown, into, like you're walking off a cliff and there aren't any steps, but you keep going because there's some optical illusion that doesn't show you how to stop. If you're blind faith, those things that we address, those where we keep going, and it opens up a different sense of ourselves when we keep going forward in a way that we have only faith to lead us. And we have faith in a relationship, and we trust that the person, what they're saying is undoubtedly true, and we don't doubt any of it, and we keep going. Doubt somewhere is nowhere to be seen. And usually we will come across certainty, and we will find knowledge. Usually if we keep going and going and going and trying and trying and trying, we will find a familiar path, and we will go by our feelings, our intuition, and our intellect will follow. And usually you get a very, when you accomplish a certain event, task, or experience with faith leading, rather than with the certainty of knowing. And these things can coexist. I know there's arguments otherwise, but faith and knowledge can coexist because there is so much that we don't even know that we don't know. For all the things we do know or that we can perceive that we know, it's very fully. So when you get to that sense of accomplishment, you get to a goal that you didn't know that you were looking for, but you know it when you find it. This is a common phrase, especially in the US. You don't know what you're looking for, but you'll find it. You'll know it when you find it, or you'll stop looking when you find it. That's a common faith. I operate most of my life on faith. My autism would be in complete bewilderment of how things work because the way neurotypicals do things and the way things make sense is sometimes are vastly two different things. Sometimes I'll have faith that, oh, they know what they're doing. We'll see what happens. Let's see what's on the other side of their way of doing things. And I'll have a lot of faith when I'm cooking. And sometimes I'll get the best hits where I'll get the best meals and family loves something and I don't know what I'm doing. And a lot of people, it perplexed me because I relied so much on my faith to get me through my everyday for the things that just didn't make sense. I was bewildered how people would approach when I would say, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I keep doing it anyways. And they would have this wide-eyed sense of fear and it would perplex me. I'm like, so, because I knew that I would get a result and that I may either like the results that may, So sometimes you got to keep that to yourself. And it's okay to keep faith to yourself. That's yours. You can have all the faith you want. And the best approach that I found for the normies, the neurotypicals, is that you say, well, let's find out, instead of I have no idea. That uncertainty is too scary for them. They don't practice having a little bit of faith. A different way to address things is, oh, let's find out what happens. Giving them a little bit of curiosity and a phrase or perception of curiosity. It's funny how a neurotypical person who doesn't have attention deficit disorder or autism or autistic nature, or that doesn't have bipolar or schizo, just these people that are just existing and following, strangest leads. They just go about their business and they just do their thing, and it's interesting how if you give them a perspective, because I've practiced several different perspectives of things on a single thought, because that's where my brain goes. It's how I live. It's my life. And so if you give them a turn of perspective, of instead of the fear of the unknown, give them a what might be over there curiosity tidbit. It's amazing to watch them flourish, as well as anybody else flourish who has had bad experiences with unknown and have better experiences with curiosity. So if you take out their fear of the unknown and you fill it with the curiosity, it's an amazing bit of leap of faith that they start taking. And it's intriguing to watch anybody of any type of neurodivergent, neurotypical, any type of experience of any type of person. When we fill ourselves and we let go of our fear of the unknown and we fill it with the seek of knowledge, or the seek of curiosity, or the seeking of, and the curiosity, which is to seek knowledge, and the curiosity to seek experience, and how much that fills a person and the way they react differently. The way that their actions start to flourish instead of falter is amazing and beautiful. And that is how I approach faith. So I don't know. I'm just gonna whatever. Let's see what me just jumping off a cliff because that's what I do. And I'm like, I know knowledge will follow. I know that certainty will be there somewhere where I land, because I know I'm still on the planet Earth. From what I perceive, I am on the Great Gaia, and I will find some bottom because gravity has worked all my life. There may be a glitch in the matrix, who knows? But wouldn't it be an awesome thing to try to discover? So, discovering your faith inside your knowledge or astride your knowledge, it's beautiful. I'm telling you, it's something you're you may want to be open to experiencing. I mean, keep that open. If I tell you you have to do it, anybody who's defined will be like, "Oh, hell no," because she said, no, I'm not going to do it because she said it. But if we try for that faith, that presentation that we have this greater power, this greater unknown essence out there that is greater than us, and this history of knowing. And it takes a bit of faith. And you don't have to believe in it. Honestly, it'll exist if you believe in it or not, and it won't exist if it doesn't really exist, if you believe in it or not, if you make it up or not. So either way, it's a sound that exists, whether or not anybody hears it, or it's a sound that was never made if anybody others, hear it or not hear it. And that is my approach to faith. You can still be very knowledgeable. You can know things exist. And you can have faith astride for the things that you don't know. Because no matter how many lifetimes you live, you look searching. Can I help you? No. Okay. How many times that we live a life, no matter how many books we read, how many videos we watch, how many people we talk to, how many stories we hear, how many adventures we learn going on. We go on and learn from experiences that we learn from. No matter how much we fill ourselves with our perceived knowledge, there is still so much that we don't know that we don't know. It is mind-boggling and blowing to me. But and beautiful. I mean, like a beauty in a way that you can know everything that's going on, or you can know a ton, and you can't know everything. But I mean, I just got done saying that. But you can know a ton. You can have a very vast, knowledgeable field on how a baby is born, but it does not at all ever take away from the magic and wonder of witnessing birth of a human being. It's beautiful, you know? You can have knowledge, and it can still not take away from the wonder or the fear, because I have a lot of knowledge about spiders, but still, no. So that is the approach that I consciously and intentionally made when I was younger to fear, was that I knew that fear stemmed from not knowing. And for me, for my survival, I put myself a standard and a method, a discipline, that if I was afraid of something, I would go and find out about it. That led very much to my faith and to my witchcraft and to the because I was oh my gosh, I was petrified of witches. And then I learned so much about witchcraft, and it's beautiful. It's very human nature-esque. And if you learn a lot about Christianity, you start walking down the old path of Christianity. I mean, really, really old path. Before it was fear mongered, and there was some greed involved with some of the texts that you have. There are some things I don't agree with. That I had a particular bad experience with, that I took it to someplace else, but it doesn't mean that the faith in itself or the teachings are necessarily bad. In a lot of faiths, I mean, you look at Hindu, right? Hindu's a faith. So yes, Hindu's a faith. Buddhism. If you look at well, I don't think that's a religion as much as that is a spirituality. Um, Judaism, Catholicism, not just Christianity. I learned that for a particular group of people, those are two vastly different things. Christianity and Catholicism. It was intriguing. Um, for a lot of monotheistic and a lot of polytheistic, more than one, polytheistic religions, several throughout the world. I mean, there are a ton. There's the Thorians. Odin's like the great all father. It's funny the thorns that looks like, but Odin's the all father, but yet Thor, the son of Odin, is first. That it gets interesting. It's a really interesting religion to look at and to read and to get into. And it's a great religion to learn about because their perspective of how the world was and the way that the things could have been. Because think about it, we look at some of these books that we think were fantasy or embellishments, but you also have to consider sheep came in a wider range of different wool. Like they had stripes, they had spots, they had all sorts of different, and they were bred out to be the modern sheeps that we have. I mean, and there were some creatures we just recently tried to, at some point, there was a recent point in which we were trying to stop extincting many species. I mean, I looked at the museum of my area, and they would show this picture of this darkened sky, and that was all birds. There was a population of sparrows, herons, fish, sparrows. There was a type of bird that would fill our sky and black out the sun and black out the sky. We shut it to nearly extinction. And just now, like my daughter's like, look at all those birds. And we have like now larger groups that aren't anywhere near the populations that were there when we started horribly colonizing the area. But the way the world was, the animals that were there, and the animals that are here, modern animals that are about, and the ones that are, people are like, oh my gosh, we thought this was extinct, and look here, we have this picture of this, which is fascinating. And I lost some point. I had a point. I lost it. I had a brain fart. Good morning. It is brain fart time. Uh, but yeah. So, oh yeah, Thor. Yeah. So, if you look at the old religions, and the way they talk about, say, ice giants, the way they talk about the gods were angry and there were, raining fire. Learn about these asteroid just rains, asteroids that hit the earth and all sorts of different uh, things that occurred, and they explained it in a different perspective, a perspective of the gods were angry or however. But there's a bit of history in these stories. If you take them and kind of translate them more scientific, it'll help you. The more you can get into it, the more you can decipher it, the more you can learn about planet cycles, when it was, because the Mayans wrote down a lot. So talked about how when they planted, when they had trade, when they had wars. I have a feeling that the wars came when they had famines and they had populations grew. I have a feeling. I can't say for sure because I don't have all that research. But I have a feeling that it they would have a calendar of when to fight and when to have crops and when to like when to do this and when to that. And if you read into a lot of this history, which is rich and which I used to think was boring, and because I was given the white man's history, which is very boring and not as factual and not as rich, and it was George Washington cut down a cherry tree. That was my history lessons. Though, yeah, no. But yeah, if you consider those things, if you can get into the rich history, and for me, my autism was like, well, they would show you ancient China, and they would show you the ancient European, and for me, I kind of wanted like a timestamp map of what was going on all around the world and the continents at the exact same time. What was going on in China during this time that we had this medieval period of the Black Plague? Because you would think that the history would be rich because that was a time when we took notes, we had paper, we scrawled short little things because paper was not common. So what you wrote was of dire importance, was just the factual information. And so whatever isn't lost to burning crap of what, like say the time of the Black Plague, because we had shipping routes that brought the Black Plague all around pandemically. So if you look at that kind of thing, what was going on, that's the kind of thing that I just needed my brain to stamp instead of the whole history of this area here on the planet and the whole history of this on here. I needed a time stamp of the whole, how it all worked together, because this planet is interlocked and interchangeable. The winds over here in Africa bring you what's going on, like how it affects the rains. I mean, if you look at that one show with Will Smith, the One Rock, Beautiful Rock, or something, One Beautiful Rock. I think it was Disney. Oh my god, these reference points are difficult. But anyways, Will Smith hosted this gorgeous thing, and it shows a lot of it was astronaut perspective of the planet, all the way down to what was going down on in this little area that they were seeing, how the animals affected this whole planet, how it kind of like shapes the globe. It's gorgeous. So you would have to think shipping routes affected the sales prices, and everything affects everything else. What it has to do with the price of eggs in China is very intriguing. Why and what you have going on here, even if you can't see it. Even if you feel isolated in the middle of a desert, you have to wonder, why do we care so much about the events going on in Ukraine? Because we are all affected by it somehow in one way or another. And it's an interesting point that gets brought up again and again and again. And having that faith and knowledge together, intertwined and interweaved in our lives is very important. So if you want to consider those this week and take that and with that being said, with that somewhere in your forethoughts and your upfront thinking, in your I noticed this because this word is up. So every time that word is associated, I hear that word and I see these things and I feel this and I do that and yeah. And a lot of people are very visual, and other people are very audio, and some people are very textual. But if we could combine a lot of that, I'll notice that if I am relying heavy on a sense, I'll try to incorporate my other senses into it. And it really opens up the experience. So when you feel unknowing, approach with curiosity. And for yourself, you might want to consider, if you will. I loved it when the old show said that. For a moment, if you will consider, if you will. Taking the unknown, of letting go of fear, and filling it with curiosity. Hi! And see how that approach to your life fills you. You may already be doing it, because if I've discovered it, no doubt other countless wonderful people have discovered the same thing. And it's not too late to strive to take a moment out of your life to discover for yourself, if you haven't yet, to consider filling your life with more curiosity. Healthy curiosity, not curiosity that kills the cat. No. Minding your own business where, so take a healthy note. Is this yours to be curious about? Is this your business? Is this your line? So take that with a cautionary tale. I'm gonna light that. Can you light that back up? That one's a particularly strong one. That hits the back of my head. Holy moly's.
And I can do it myself too.
I know.
All right. But thank you for joining us. And until next we meet. I love you guys. Love you. Hope you guys do well. Bye. Have a good one.